Hi again, I'm Greg Hensley with Stone Edge Surfaces, and we have already applied our Stone Edge Pro Stamp overlay system to a substrate, and now we're getting to the coloring application, and we kept this fairly simplistic. All I ask is that you use these liquid colors. These are water-based acrylic quart liquid colors. They come in a color of 16 palette, and we're going to use these at a ratio of 1 to 10 to our Pro Seal sealer. Every time we apply color to any of our products, it's always applied with the Pro Seal sealer so that it penetrates into the concrete cement mill for the longevity and wear of that actual concrete, even if it wasn't sealed. So our ratio for doing a base color, and again today, we're going to be spraying that base color on to create a base to when we can hand carve and expose the aggregate below to create the depiction of a grout joint. And then tomorrow we'll come back and we'll accent those crevices with an antiquing and additional colors as well. But for right now, we're going to do the base color so that we can get to the carving. So today on the coloring process, we've chosen to use dark cypress and a portion of white to create the base color that we're going to spray on. It doesn't matter to me how many colors you choose to mix together to create a custom color. It's always 1 to 10. When I say 1 to 10, I mean 1 part color, 10 parts Pro Seal. So if I mix charcoal and persimmon together and I use however many ounces to create that total amount, that is my 1 part color. So if I chose to use that to make 4 ounces of a particular color, then that is my 4 to 40 ounces of Pro Seal sealer. Okay? So just so you have an understanding for doing large projects, 64 ounces to a whole 5-gallon pail of Pro Seal, that is a 1 to 10. 1 quart to 2.5 gallons, of course, is a 1 to 10. And depending on how someone sprays, this can system at a 1 to 10 of the whole 5-gallon pail of Pro Seal and the 2 quarts can go 750 to 1,500 square feet. And you may say, well, that's a huge tolerance, that's double. Well, yeah, but if I'm someone who takes a spray bottle and I spray like this and I move around really slow, then I'm going to use it up way too fast and I'm only going to cover a certain amount of square footage. But if I pump this sprayer up and atomize it strongly to where I really spray out very hard and fast, then I can move around the project and spray it out very fast and get the most square footage allotment that I can out of a bottle. So that's why we say there's such a tolerance, just depending on how someone sprays. So now I'm going to take my dark cypress, I'm going to shake it up from what they manufacture in the plant. And I don't know exactly what color I'm going to go for here, but I am going to make a total of 8 ounces. All right, so now I'm going to add my white to the dark cypress that I have put in this container, and I'm looking for a total of about 8 ounces, but what I'll do is I'm going for what I see by eye. What you see in the container is exactly the color it's going to be on the surface before you add your Pro Seal to it. And remember, the reason we always add Pro Seal to our Stone Edge Surfaces liquid colors is because this is a reactive agent that allows, when they are mixed together, to chemically react and penetrate down into that actual concrete and give it the longevity like we spoke of earlier. And then when you seal and lock that in, it really holds for a longevity of time. So, but remember, what you see is what you get when you mix these colors together. So when you add the Pro Seal to it, because this Pro Seal is white, you can't see what color you've made until it evaporates and you've sprayed it. So don't freak out, don't start adjusting, just trust what you've already put in there as your color, because once you saw it and you said, oh yeah, I like that color, that's what I'm going with, go with it. And don't deviate from that. So I'm going to add a little white to this. Ooh. Yep, we're going to go with that. You see how nice and light it is? I want a light base. I don't want anything really dark. I want it to be a very light base for creating my stones so that when I carve through, the grout joint's a little bit darker. So then I can pick 2 or 3 different secondary colors to spray on after the fact to accent my stones to get more of an authenticity of realistic flagstone carve. So now I have 8 ounces of your actual Pro Mix liquid colors, and I'm going to add 80 ounces to this, put it in a garden sprayer, and get ready to spray it on the surface. So I have my color ready. I have a container that I know allows me to get up to 80 ounces, so I don't have to second guess too much. Got my Pro Seal ready to go, top off. So we have our Pro Seal sealer ready to go with our liquid color. And when I add these two together, again, I'll spray that on my base system for hand carving. But when you add these together and you spray them down, it's going to leave the surface, whether it was vertical or horizontal, today we just happen to be going horizontal, at a matte finish look, meaning there's not going to be any satin finish to it, no eggshell, anything. It's going to leave it looking as authentic as natural concrete or stone. The only way that you're going to change that depiction is if you were to spray layer after layer after layer. Probably would take 8 to 10 layers of this before you'd start to begin to see some type of sheen. So 1 or 2 or 3 sprays of this, you're not going to see a buildup that's going to create a glaze. That's going to happen when you do your final seal at the end of your project, whether you choose a water-based satin finish or a high gloss or a matte finish for that matter. But for what we do with our liquid coloring systems, it's completely matte finish and just to penetrate down the concrete for longevity of finish. So we're getting ready to pour our Stone Edge liquid colors into our garden sprayer. And these are all natural pigments from the earth that are in these containers in a dry form, and then we add dispersing agents and water to keep them in a liquid form. When we add a color to our Pro Seal and then it goes into our container, anytime I'm putting it in any spraying apparatus, whether it's a garden sprayer, a hand pump sprayer, or even a hand trigger sprayer that we use, I always filter the system with a 1 gallon filtration system or a 5 gallon or a cheesecloth. I don't usually use the little paper funnel cups because it builds up and catches too much and it won't go through the actual filter. So these are really nice to have. You'll see when I'm finished pouring it in how much it catches of the debris and little aggregate that are inside of there that can clog up your sprayers. And we want to keep those sprayers as clear as possible throughout the entire process so that you don't have to worry about stopping and unclogging and things like that. So we're going to mix these two together. And one thing I like to always do is I always keep my product stirred nicely throughout. All right, so now I'm going to put my funnel in here. I'm going to add my liquid color. I'll get close to the bottom and I'll just kind of stir it up a little bit and make sure you get all the final color from the bottom. Okay, so now we've put our coloring system into the actual sprayer, and I'm going to pull this up just so you can see the amount of fine aggregate that is in there. And all those little pieces that you see right there will get clogged into that sprayer, as minute as they are, and cause a hindrance in your spraying action. And that is just something that we do not want to happen. So now that I have it in there, it should be a nice clean system. I'm going to close this up and I'm going to pump it up very, very extremely much. I'm going to probably, for every 6 inches of air in one of these garden sprayers, usually about 40 or so pumps. And that seems extreme, but you really don't want to have a low pressure to where it just spits out and you have to waste too much time. So I want to make sure that I really give a high pressure to this so that I can get high volume out very fast on my actual project. All right, so when you're pumping, notice how it's getting tighter. When you're finished pumping, don't try to shove that thing down and lock it. Just let it hold out like this. That's how most people bust their sprayers and they don't get very much usage out of it. All right, so now we're ready to spray our base color application onto our small project here. As you notice, I've slipped on another pair of shoe ends, except this time they don't have any spikes on them, but they don't have any tread either. So the smooth surface allows for you to be able to walk on the freshly poured overlay without scratching it all up and things like that, and I can move along. Because right now, what I've done is I waited for all the release agent to evaporate away off the project, and I waited for the project to get hard enough so that I can walk out onto the project with these shoe ends and spray the base color, okay? How you'll know if your release agent is not evaporating off all the way? When you go to spray your base color, it may bead up like car wax. You want to stop. You want to give it another 15-20 minutes. Maybe put a small fan away from your project, let air circulate, and let the rest of that release agent dry out. The reason you don't want to put a fan directly on it, because you don't want to cause a shrinkage crack, and you don't want it to dry out too hard, maybe for carving. So get your fan a little bit further back, let it naturally just get the release agent off. But we look like we're good to go here, so I can step out into the actual project, and then I can spray my base color. Notice how I'm agitating my sprayer the entire time, because I'm keeping the mixture separated and mixing the entire time. Nice and easy, I don't have to go crazy with it, but I do want to agitate the surface just enough. Okay, so we've already sprayed our base color of Stone Edge, Pro Seal, and liquid coloring system, and we used dark cypress and white together to get a really nice light look to the surface area, by which now you can see I'm wearing my shoe-ins that do not have any spikes on them again, so now I can get back on and I can carve. This is my carving tool, and if I go to carve and I hold it straight down like this and carve through, I'm going to go deep. So I'm looking to go shallow and just scrape the surface so that I get a nice shallow grout joint. I like to think 5 sides and some triangles. That way I don't do too many squares. And if you have 2 guys that are carving and you got a larger surface area, both get on both sides, you may carve a few feet down, switch sides, carve a few feet down and switch sides. That way you don't have one guy that carves one kind of style depiction from another and that shows up in your carving. Either that or just let one guy carve the entire thing and let somebody else do a different application of that particular process. So all right, now switch. All right. What we're going to do today is we're going to start carving to create our flagstone. I'm going to use a theory that we like to use 2-finger grout joints, 3-finger intersections. I'm going to try to keep all my nice, beautiful texture together within stones, kind of carve around that. When I say around, I don't mean around, I just mean with our straight lines kind of going around that particular texture. Because if I go down here and I start carving, some guys will go, okay, I want one here, and I want one here, and I want one here, and if you, before long, kind of looks like fish scales throughout your project. And I don't want a bunch of thin lines. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to make it look ugly, because we're just going to give it all those little sharp, straight little lines to create our design first. Then we're going to come back and open up those grout joints and make them look more authentic and like a realistic flagstone. So I'm going to begin carving now and create the pattern on this particular surface. So, there you have it. I've created my design. You notice I mostly have some 5-sided particular surface areas. I have a few triangles every once in a while. I try to have a couple large, more medium, and just a few small within the same configuration. And as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you want to have different sided and shapes of your particular project. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sweep this off and then begin the opening up of my particular grout joints. So the main reason I'm sweeping this off is so that when I'm stepping on my project, even though I have these flat-soled shoe ends, is so that I don't push this debris down into the surface area because it's still rather fresh. So now I have created this really ugly depiction of straight lines that somewhat look like a flagstone pattern that maybe a regular concrete stamp may have. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take the same tool and we're going to go down and really jagged up those edges, open up the grout joints, and open up those intersections where they meet. So as you can see, as I'm coming through, I'm really jagging up the edges, going back and forth. And what that does is when you have flagstone, they have very rough, sharp edges. And so therefore you kind of want to go through and chip off some of that and let that look like a natural stone. And again, you can see I'm going for a 3-finger grout joint right here. And I may stay 2-finger. Don't be, oh, I went too wide, whatever. So what? It's okay. Not all flagstone is right up next to each other. And the thing is, if you have them too close together, then once you step away 30, 40 feet, you can't see it anymore. It all runs together. So you gotta have some grout joint appearance so that you'll see the actual stones separated from a distance. This is really applicable when you're doing vertical work. And when you do it at the right time, you see how it's just kind of feeding somewhat like butter. This feeds in really nice. Once I go so far, I try not to step on those big piles of debris. So we applied this material today somewhere around 10 o'clock in the morning. And we use an accelerator pack because we're inside, we're in a small area. And it is now 3:30 in the afternoon, and we've already stamped it out, let the release agent evaporate away, put our base color on there, and now we're back onto a carving. Here's the thing, when you're outside, you don't use an accelerator pack most of the time, especially in nice regular weather, but you want to do all your carving the same day. So do not lay too much material out that you can't get back and carve that afternoon or that evening before it gets too dark before you go home. Because trust me, you do not want to let it go overnight, come back the next morning and think you're going to just carve this system out. It is not 24-hour carvable system. It's probably about a 12 to 16-hour carvable system. And then from that point on, it really becomes hard. So do all your carving the same day, if possible, because what you're going to find is going to try to do it the next day, you're going to probably have to have a wire wheel or some type of grinder if you're wanting to create some type of grout joints without having too much trouble. But we like to do it with the hand carving tool. Doing a quick system to where it just kind of feeds through like butter, scuffs the surface, gives us that illusion of that grout joint. I don't want it to be too much effort. I'm using my fingertips, so that shouldn't be considered too much effort. Going back and forth. I like to, when I come off the surface area, kind of widen out my grout joints a little bit. And then once I get to a certain point, and I have feathered out all my edges, I've got all my grout joints, I'll broom it away and see if I have to get back on there and do any other application to that. Tomorrow we'll be doing accent colors on this, as well as final seal. Okay, so now that we've carved, we're going to broom this all away just to see if there's any small areas that we missed and we may want to get. So I'm going to begin to broom this off. And as you can already see the more realism and natural look of stone that you can't get from a regular decorative concrete type flagstone stamp, because it doesn't give you these grout joints. And sometimes even they try to come back and stamp it with particular stamps and then re-grout the grout joints that the concrete stamp created. Well, we don't have to do that because we're carving them and creating our own stone. And there's no stone too small or too big, but I'll tell you this, if you promise your customer you can give them the smallest stones as they want, you can carve it all day. So try to market nice medium stones with a small one here and there to make it look natural. So now we've broomed it away. You can see we've created our really authentic looking flagstone pattern. Now I'm just gonna go through and clean up any pieces I see. Like right here, you can see I still had a little bit of the surface area showing up through that grout joint. Maybe where this stone had right there. That's a little too jagged maybe. Got that little piece right there. Where that, or I went through that texture. Maybe I didn't get that entire thing. Other than that, looks pretty darn good. And right here. And again, having a leaf blower with you makes all the difference in the world. Being able to blow off all this debris as you finish carving. And guys, I think that's going to be it. We're going to leave it at that and burn that off one more time. So hey, I'm Greg Hensley with Stone Edge Surfaces, and today we're getting ready to color out a hand-carved flagstone that we are ready and have already put a base color on. We've chose 4 different colors, and again, when we spray these out of these hand trigger sprayers, you can be anywhere in between a 1 to 3 to a 1 to 10. I'm going to do about a 1 to 5 with this coloration process. I've already got my colors laid out. I've chosen Palace Beige, Bronze, Mist Gray, and Persimmon. I could have used them by themselves, but I chose to add a little bit of tone to each one of them. So I lightened up the Palace Beige using white, which will lighten up any color. I used Dogwood with our Bronze just to richen it up just a hair. And then I used Green Slate with our Mist Gray to get it more towards a bluestone. And I used a little bit of charcoal to our Persimmon just to get a little bit more richer brown. I'm going to add my sealer, Pro Seal, to this. We're going to put it in these hand trigger sprayers. We're going to adjust the nozzle to a little nice mist spray pattern. And then we're going to mist our stones to get variations in each stone to get more authentic, realistic flagstone. Everything we do when we add color to our bottles, I don't care, like we said yesterday, if it's a hand trigger bottle or a hand pump sprayer or a garden sprayer, we always filter everything because of all the raw pigments in there. What we're doing now is we've taken 4 different colors that of course you saw us mix up and put into these hand trigger sprayers. And now we're going to mist portions of these stones so that then after that we can put an antique on it to make it look realistic like a natural stone. There's many different colors you can choose from. We chose 4 natural colors, from a gray to a kind of a copper to a medium brown and a light beige. And we've position the nozzles until we have a nice misting spray so we don't put any harsh lines on the actual stones, and anything that may get in a little bit of the grout joint will just dissipate away. So you'll see my technique as I go, and I'm not trying to get into the grout joint. I'm trying to hit my stones, and we'll go from there. So we're getting ready to spray our colors, and we're going to use our darkest colors first so we can use the brighter and lighter colors to blend them as we go. That way we don't end up with a bunch of harsh dark marks. So I've got a gray, and I've got a rustic brown that we're going to use first. And I just get down level with the actual project, and I just begin to mist and get a different tone on the actual stone that I'm spraying on. So as you can see, I'm not getting into my grout joints. I'm just dissipating away. And it's nice and even. And I'm going to different stones that I may have. Don't be afraid to do 2-tone stones where you may have some gray and a little bit of color. That's enough gray for me right now, so I'll pick up the secondary color. A little corner of this one. Look at that, get a nice little 2-tone in there with some variation. Less is more, guys, right? So that's probably enough of that particular color. Now I have a brown, and I'm coming down on my brown. I'm not doing every stone, because remember, we want this thing to stand out and have different variations. I think I'll do this half of this stone. Brown. And let's go to the lightest color that we have, which is a nice light beige. And really, now until we do the antiquing, to me, that's enough. Because remember, the antiquing, when you antique, is going to pull more of the texture out. All right, so now we're ready for our antiquing process of our flagstones that we have already based out. We've already given some accent colors to, but now we want to draw it all together by using an antiquing color of a ratio of 1:5:30. That's 1 part color, 5 parts Flex Seal, 30 parts water. And what that allows the material to do is to travel down into the crevices and settle down in the crevices and leave a darker pigmentation to give it an authenticity of weathered, real stone. So that's what we're looking for here. I'm going to mix up 2 different antiquings using a Dove Gray with a little charcoal and a Persimmon with a little charcoal, maybe some dark gray, just to richen them up, spray them down, let them travel, and then the lasting effect will be there for us to seal at the end. All right, so now I'm at a ratio of 1:5:30 for my antiquing, and I have a grayish, dark gray antiquing, and I'm going to concentrate on my more gray stones, and then I'm going to use the brown antiquing on the other stones, but we'll first hit the ones with the gray stones on them. Anywhere you see the milkiness, that's where the color is going to be left on the actual stone of what we have created. The color is running off the high spots because it has some water involved with it and just getting down into the low areas of the actual stone. Now the only thing we have left to do with this one, after we do this process, is seal it and walk away from the job. All right, so now we've already done our base color and our antiquing and differentiation of accents on multiple stones. And now we want to do something with our wood to help it stand out a little bit. So we've taken a little bit of a darker brown, medium to darker brown, and real quick, if it's a border, I'm just going to be brushing this on with a large brush really quick. I'm not trying to stretch it out like paint. I'm trying to get it covered and get it really thick and like wood, or if I had a gray formulation for maybe a barn wood. If I was basing out a whole wood substrate, I'd just put it in a garden sprayer and I would just spray it on. This is about a 1 to 5 solution, so I can get a nice strong wood color, and then we'll come back and antique that after the fact. So all you're doing is slopping her on, letting it go as fast as you can. I'm not trying to stretch it out at all. Get right up to the edge. And one couple long strokes for good measure. And then we'll come back here shortly and we'll antique those grains. Those white, they don't just go away, they settle down to a nice gray. Does that, do you see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pricing this out, what would you charge for a stone? It's like $8 a foot.
For pricing this for real stone?
No, for this.
For doing this? As fast as I think you guys could learn to do this process, I don't think you should be below $10 a square foot. You're giving them, what's it going to cost you to build flagstone lake? $20 a square foot. $25 a square foot. So in all reality, why can't you be at $15 a square foot? To make the money that
This
you
will
deserve.
last longer than real stone.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get the calcium buildup, the lime buildup, efflorescence. What do you think, Jose?
Good in here.
$10 a foot minimum.
That's my opinion. Hell, when I was contracting 15 years ago, I was charging $8 a square foot. I mean, you're talking 15 years ago, 8 to 10, $2. I mean, in all reality, to do this, I think you should be upwards of 12 to 15.